Good morning, great morning, wonderful morning, spectacular morning, outstanding morning, magnificent morning. Oh my goodness, yes, the beautiful reminder that we get to choose, that we get to decide what things mean, that we get to accept, reject ideas, that we get to originate ideas. Yes, that's the magnificent power that we have that, if used, can help you to deliver incredible outcomes in your life. But see, this is where application comes into play. This is where use is necessary. Remember, this knowledge that I'm sharing with you, this information is mere static information. It's not power in itself. It's passive, it's static. And the only way that it becomes power, that it will become power in your life, is if it's used. So when I share with you, okay, good morning, great morning, magnificent morning, and actually dive deeper into helping you understand that that is a choice that's being made, see, that's guidance for you to do the same for you with whatever you're going through. Remember, everything is fundamentally meaningless. Everything just is. Nothing is good or bad. It's our thinking that makes it so. It's our thinking. It's what's in the kingdom of heaven that matters most. Now, that doesn't mean that the outside's not important. It is, because that's part of the whole, which leads me to something that I was perusing through before we started this call. And this comes from this beautiful gem, Entering the Kingdom. This is a really cool book. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Dolly, thank you so much for getting this to me. So, but anyways, this is in chapter The Law of Love. Remember, Charles Haanel talks about this, but from a hierarchy. He says there's the law of attraction, which is dependent on the law of vibration. The law of vibration is dependent on the law of love. So here, James Allen is talking about it. And he says this: let us now search for the cause of this fact in order that the evils connected with it may be transcended. He says, every phenomena in social and national life, as in nature, is an effect. Now, we've been talking about that in the Master Key System. And all of these effects are embodied by a cause, which is not remote and detached. Now, think about that. The cause is not remote and detached. Sometimes when we dive into this information, it might seem that it is being conveyed that way, but it's not, meaning it's not detached, but which is immediate soul and life of the effect itself. As the seed, now this is important, pay attention to this. Remember, seed, plant, blossom, fruit. Everything produces after its kind. As the seed is contained in the flower, and the flower in the seed, so the relation of cause and effect is intimate and inseparable. So it's part of the whole. We were talking about this in some of what we've been reading in the Master Key System, how there's no inside without an outside. How, having said that, the outside and the inside make the whole. Okay. An effect also is vivified and propagated not by any life inherent in itself, but by the life and impulse existing in the cause. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Now, again, what does it have to do with you in your life? Well, it has everything to do with you in your life. Why? Because your experiences, the outcomes, are the effects. And here he's talking about how all of it originates in the cause, which is in your mind, which is in the kingdom of heaven. It's in the kingdom of heaven. So now let's go into this beautiful gem. Now, this is the Master Key System. This is what we've been studying. If you'd like to read along exactly as we are going through the book, then get this copy of the book. And then when you do get it, make sure that you don't just read it or memorize it or even underline it and take notes. See, the key component is to apply it. Remember, application, baby, that's where it's at. And also make sure that you have your goal card with you and that you're using this information to connect with this. All right, ready? Let's go into it right now. Here we go. Now here we're on page 316. And before this, section number 9, here he was talking about in the moral world and also in the mental world, and how there's a law that's operating that, if understood, will help you to deliver a different effect. Why? Because the cause is what's being pointed out here. So here he says, we find exactly the same law obtaining in the spiritual world. We speak of mind and matter as two separate entities. Now, how many of us have heard this thing, mind over matter, thinking that matter is separate from mind? And again, we see it as two separate entities. But clear insight makes it evident that there is but one operative principle, and that is mind. So mind is the real and eternal. Underline that. Mind is the real and eternal. Now remember, this has to do with you changing the outcomes of your life. Understanding this, going into the kingdom of heaven, which is the kingdom of thought, which is where all of it happens, which is in your mind, and understanding that it's internal will help you tremendously. Matter is forever changing. Now think about that. Mind is real and eternal. Matter is forever changing. We know that in the aeons of time, 100 years is but a day. If we stand in any large city and let the eye rest on the innumerable large and magnificent buildings, the railways, the electric trams, the telephones, the electric lights, and all other conveniences of modern civilization, we may remember that not one of them was there 100 years ago, except perhaps several of the buildings. And if we could stand in the same spot 100 years from now, in all probability, we would find but a few of them remained. Now, I want you to write this in your notes. Matter is always changing. Now, why is this important? Well, because when you look at the matter that's there, and if you ask the right question, which is how did it get there, you'll realize that understanding cause, which is thought, is, first of all, the answer for how it got there, but that you can think whatever you want to think, which means that you can deliver change in the outer world yourself. Now, again, look at the room you're in right now. Look at where everything's placed, the table, your chair, maybe curtains, maybe a bookshelf, maybe the books in the bookshelf. All of it wasn't there at one time. How did it get there in your room? See, this is where your imagination took place. You imagined it first. You were loyal to the idea, and then it unfolded right before your eyes. In the animal kingdom, we find the same law of change. The millions and millions of animals come and go, few years constituting their lifespan. In the plant world, change is still more rapid. Many plants are nearly all grasses come up and go in a single year. When we pass to the inorganic, we expect to find something more substantial. But as we gaze on the apparently solid continent, we are told that it arose from the ocean. We see the giant mountain, and we're told that the place where it now stands was once a lake. And as we stand in awe before the great cliffs in the Yosemite Valley, we can easily trace the path of glaciers which carried all before them. Now, again, we talked about this before, but see, we're going over this again to help to embed within you that the outer world is constantly changing. You know, whenever I fly, one of the most beautiful things that I love to see are, for instance, when flying over the desert, I see, you know, the mountains, and I see these indentations in the ground, and I'm thinking, wow, you know, it wasn't that way all the time. There was once water there. In California, in the Central Valley, that used to be a lake. That's crazy because now it's a freaking desert. It used to be a lake, a massive one. But again, the whole point is that change is something that happens often. Now we are in the presence of continual change, right? Underline that. We are in the presence of continual change. This is one thing that is going to be a constant for you. Everything's always changing. It's called the perpetual transmutation of energy. Everything is always moving into form. In terms of the movement into form, it's either creating, disintegrating. The point is that it's moving. And we know that change is but an evolution of the universal mind. And this grand process whereby all things are continually being created anew, and we come to know that matter is but a form which mind takes and is therefore simply a condition. Now, that is so important for you to get. Because remember, we're talking about you changing your outcomes, right? You want to be wealthier, you want to be happier, you want to live a completely different lifestyle. That's something that's got to change in your outer world. What you're wanting to change are the conditions. You're wanting to change the effects. And here he's pointing out the cause. Matter is but a form which mind takes and is therefore simply a condition. Underline that. Matter is no principle. Mind is the only principle. Underline that. Now, again, why is that important? Well, because many people think of the matter as the principle. They're looking at the outside, not understanding that the outside is the effect. They want to change the effect, but because they live their life thinking that the principle is the outside, they invite into their mind the images of the outside. Why? Because that's what they're giving life to, which leads to more of the same thinking, which leads to more of the same feeling, which leads to more of the same actions. Oh my gosh, the results are now the same. That's the cycle of more of the sameness. And that, unfortunately, is a pattern that the vast majority of the world is in. They live in ignorance. Remember, ignorance is the only problem that you'll ever have. It's the only problem that you have ever had. It's the only problem you have right now. And ignorance is simply not knowing. And what is it that we are ignorant of? We're ignorant of primal cause. The real reason why things happen is not taught. Maybe it's shared religiously in churches and stuff like that, but even most of the people who talk about it in churches, they don't even understand it. They just say it. How do I know? Because all you have to do is listen to the things they say and the things that they do. They meaning people who are enamored in it. The kingdom of heaven is the kingdom of thought. How must you enter the kingdom of heaven? What's the only way to enter? You must be as a child. Why is that said? See, that's important to get. Well, because children, they're not corrupted by layers of virus, meaning layers of limitation and lack, and they imagine really great things. They can fly in the sky in a box. They can travel distances. They pretend really well. So matter is no principle. Mind is the only principle. Now, before we go further, for those of you who are watching this live stream, and if this is resonating with you and you'd love to tap into watching the rest of these calls and watch the recordings, because you do get access to the recordings for this, then go to elevitality.com and register for Master Your Mind. You'll thank yourself later.